Camilla Parker Bowles is the Queen Consort of the United Kingdom. She wears a diamond-encrusted crown, rides in golden ceremonial carriages, and resides within the ancient gilded halls of royal palaces. And yet, on a cold evening at the gates of Windsor Castle, her own biological son was physically stopped, confronted, and turned away under her husband's watch. The man who gave that ruthless, unwavering command was Prince William. That dramatic moment at the Iron Gates is where this story begins. But the reality behind palace doors is far deeper, darker, and more calculated than a simple security mix-up. This was not a minor administrative error, nor was it a failure of event coordination. This was a deliberate, cold, and strategic power move executed by the future King of England to draw a permanent line in the sand regarding who truly belongs inside the sovereign inner circle and who will be cast into the cold shadows outside. The person standing on the wrong side of that line was his father's wife, and the message delivered to her was absolute. To truly understand how this explosive showdown unfolded, you must go back to the exact night everything detonated. It was supposed to be a crowning achievement of royal elegance, the annual Windsor Charity Gala. The staterooms of Windsor Castle were prepared for a night of immense prestige, filled with international dignitaries, global benefactors, high-ranking aristocrats, and senior members of the royal household. The entire production was meticulously engineered by palace organizers to display the monarchy at its most unified, polished, and majestic peak. Behind closed doors, Queen Camilla had been quietly working for months to maneuver her eldest son, Tom Parker Bowles, into the center of this high-stakes event. Tom is no stranger to public life. He is a well-known food critic, author, and television personality who has attended informal family gatherings for years. But he had never been formally acknowledged as an official part of the royal apparatus. Now that Camilla was Queen Consort, she believed the time had finally arrived to integrate her children permanently into the sovereign fold. She wanted Tom to participate in high-profile royal occasions, appearing alongside blood royals in official capacities. Camilla made her request firmly during private scheduling meetings. She pushed for it through official administrative channels. She even enlisted King Charles to intervene on her behalf, operating under the firm assumption that her husband could persuade his eldest son to yield. But Prince William viewed the situation through a completely different, unyielding lens. To William, this was not a private family dinner behind closed curtains. This was a formal state-level occasion steeped in centuries of history, protocol, and public symbolism. And to the future king, symbolism is the bedrock of the monarchy's survival. William understands that every single photograph captured by the press, every seating arrangement inside the Grand Hall, and every name printed on an official guest list sends a definitive signal to the global public about who the monarchy values and who it rejects. Allowing non-royal stepchildren to assume official roles alongside sovereign heirs threatens to blur the sacred line between blood royalty and marital convenience. So when the finalized guest list was distributed internally, Tom Parker Bowles' name was explicitly omitted. Camilla was stunned. She pleaded behind closed doors. She attempted to negotiate with palace administrators. She utilized every ounce of influence her elevated title granted her. But Prince William refused to bend an inch. Then arrived the night of the gala. The grand entrance of Windsor Castle was illuminated by floodlights. Luxury limousines glided up the cobblestone driveways. Cameras flashed continuously along the press lines. And guests in sparkling gowns and tailored tuxedos poured through the castle doors. In the middle of this grand procession, Tom Parker Bowles attempted to enter the castle grounds alongside his mother's official entourage. What happened next was a moment of agonizing public humiliation for the son of a reigning queen. Royal protection officers, acting under direct, unequivocal instructions from Prince William, stepped forward and physically blocked his path. Eyewitnesses present at the security checkpoint described a moment of total, suffocating awkwardness. Tom stood there in visible shock as cameras flashed around him, while security officers calmly informed him that his name was not on the cleared access manifest. He was softly but firmly turned away, forced to make a humiliating retreat back to his vehicle, while the elite of global society swept past him into the castle staterooms. Inside, Queen Camilla was forced to walk the red carpet alone. She had to step before the flashing cameras, smile for the media, and perform the role of a gracious queen consort, while internalizing what was undoubtedly the most personal public insult she had received since entering the royal family. Attendees who stood nearby reported that her jaw was tightly clenched, her eyes were cold, and her hands were visibly trembling as she held her evening clutch. For the first time since her coronation, the queen consort looked deeply vulnerable rather than majestic. This was not a subtle snub handled behind closed doors. This was a public execution of authority delivered directly at the gates of Windsor Castle. When the gala finally concluded, after the last guest had departed and the media lights were powered down, Camilla's composed facade completely collapsed. Sources who witnessed the immediate aftermath described the queen consort dropping into an armchair inside her private quarters, overwhelmed by tears of pure humiliation. A senior staff member later revealed that it was the expression in her eyes that left an indelible mark, not pure rage at first, but complete, paralyzed disbelief that William had actually carried out the threat. Camilla reportedly turned to her closest aides in tears and said, "I thought we were past this. I thought we were family." That single sentence exposes the massive gulf between what Camilla believed her title granted her and what Prince William was willing to permit. She had assumed that ascending to the position of queen consort would automatically earn her children the institutional acceptance she had spent decades hoping for. But William's decisive action proved a brutal reality. Titles, tiaras, and royal wedding vows do not rewrite history, and they do not grant access to the inner fortress of the crown. To comprehend why William took such an uncompromising stance, you have to look past palace politics and examine the emotional foundation of his entire life, his mother, Princess Diana. Although Princess Diana tragically died in 1997, her presence has never vacated the halls of the royal estate, nor has it left William's mind. Her values, her unresolved suffering, and her tragic legacy remain embedded in every major decision he makes as Prince of Wales. William was not merely born the heir to the British throne, he was the firstborn son of a woman who was adored by millions worldwide, yet broken by the cold, unfeeling machinery of the very institution he is destined to lead. As a boy, William watched his mother suffer under the relentless pressure of royal life. He overheard the whispers, witnessed the tears, and knew about the painful secrets concealed behind palace doors regarding Charles and Camilla. When Diana was killed in Paris, a permanent, unbreakable oath was forged in William's mind: never allow his mother's memory to be sanitized, rewritten, or erased, and never submit to the version of the monarchy that caused her so much pain. He swore to honor her legacy not through chaotic public outbursts, but through calculated, firm, and principled governance. Where does Camilla fit into William's emotional reality? Regardless of how aggressively the royal public relations machine worked over the last 2 decades to rehabilitate Camilla's image and present her as a dedicated public servant, William has never forgotten her role in his mother's heartbreak. To him, she was not simply his father's long-term companion. She was the woman whose presence shattered his parents' marriage and destabilized his childhood. Over the years, William displayed diplomatic maturity. He shared public smiles, exchanged polite pleasantries at formal engagements, and even voiced measured support for her title adjustment to Queen Consort following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. But palace insiders maintain that those public gestures were diplomatic armor designed to protect his father's reign, rather than genuine personal affection. Behind closed doors, his relationship with Camilla remained guarded, cautious, and strictly professional. He accepted her presence out of respect for his father's happiness, but he never viewed her family as part of the monarchy's future structure. As Camilla's profile expanded, and as her name began appearing in historical contexts alongside Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana, William drew an absolute line. Diana was not just his mother, she was an enduring legacy that he refused to let the palace rewrite or soften to accommodate Camilla's family. So when Camilla pushed to integrate her son, Tom Parker Bowles, into official royal functions, William did not view it as a harmless family request. He saw it as a quiet, calculated attempt to legitimize Camilla's personal bloodline within the sovereign apparatus. Allowing Camilla's non-royal son to stand alongside blood royals at high-profile state events felt, to William, like the ultimate erasure of his mother's sacrifice. William reportedly confided to senior aides that his stance was not driven by personal animosity toward Tom as an individual, but by what Tom's inclusion represented, a subtle effort to elevate a non-royal lineage into a space where it simply does not belong. When William communicated his refusal, his demeanor was entirely cold, calm, and composed. He did not raise his voice or engage in heated emotional debates with his father. He simply stated no. When questioned by palace advisors about the severity of his decision, William reportedly replied, "This isn't about the guest list. It's about what we stand for." Turning away Camilla's son at the gates of Windsor Castle was not an act of impulse. It was a deliberate statement of principle. It was an unmistakable message to Camilla, the household, and the world that Princess Diana's memory remains protected, and that no title or strategic maneuvering will alter that reality while William controls the future of the crown. If the incident at the Windsor Charity Gala was a direct public assertion of authority, what followed weeks later was a quiet, systematic strike at the financial and operational heart of Camilla's personal network. Prince William's administration turned its focus from guest lists and state events to palace operations, money, and structural influence. The target of this next move was someone even closer to Camilla than her son, her sister, Annabel Elliot. For nearly 2 decades, Annabel Elliot had quietly held a lucrative and influential position within the royal household. An accomplished interior designer and antiques dealer, Annabel was originally brought into the fold by King Charles during his long tenure as the Duke of Cornwall. She was tasked with overseeing the design, refurbishment, and aesthetic management of the vast Duchy of Cornwall, estate a multi-billion-dollar portfolio of land, commercial properties, and luxury holiday cottages across Cornwall, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. Over her 20-year tenure, Annabel was compensated hundreds of thousands of pounds from the duchy's treasury for her professional services, receiving substantial annual payments for her work. She was an established, highly paid fixture of the estate's management structure. However, when Queen Elizabeth II passed away in September 2022, ownership and operational control of the Duchy of Cornwall automatically transferred from King Charles to Prince William. The new Duke of Cornwall wasted no time reviewing the estate's payroll, vendor contracts, and management practices. When the Duchy of Cornwall published its integrated financial report for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, a major change was revealed buried deep within the accounting pages. Prince William had officially opted not to renew Annabel Elliot's long-standing contract. There was no public announcement, no formal press release thanking her for 2 decades of service, and no ceremonial farewell. Her name was simply omitted from the payroll, bringing her paid work for the duchy to an abrupt and complete end. To the general public, this move might have appeared to be routine administrative restructuring or standard corporate budget management. But within the walls of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, the implications were seismic. Annabel Elliot was Camilla's last remaining operational link inside the monarchy's financial structure. She was not just Camilla's sister, she was her closest confidante, having served as an official coronation attendant for the Queen Consort at Westminster Abbey. Watching her sister removed from her position not for poor performance or financial misconduct, but because Prince William deemed her presence unnecessary, was a devastating blow to Camilla. Palace insiders confirmed that the Queen Consort was deeply distressed by the decision. One source noted that the distress was not merely about the loss of income for her sister, but about the unmistakable message it conveyed. Camilla's extended family would have no official footing, no operational influence, and no financial involvement in Prince William's administration. Official statements from the duchy framed the transition pragmatically, explaining that the interior design projects initiated under King Charles were complete, and that internal staff had gained sufficient expertise from Annabelle's mentorship to manage ongoing operations independently. But few within royal circles viewed the decision as purely operational. It was another calculated enforcement of William's boundary between blood royalty and peripheral marital relations. With her son turned away at the gates and her sister removed from the duchy's payroll, the pattern became undeniable. William was systematically dismantling the influence Camilla had built over decades. This systematic approach is part of a broader, long-term vision that William has been quietly implementing since becoming the Prince of Wales. His strategy centers on absolute control, institutional discipline, and strict preservation of the royal bloodline. William is navigating a complex transition period for the monarchy. He faces a father who often attempts to balance personal affection with public duty, a stepmother whose elevated position remains a subject of public debate, an estranged brother who stepped back from royal duties, and a modern public that demands transparency and accountability from the institution. In William's view, ensuring the long-term survival and legitimacy of the British monarchy requires absolute internal discipline. It demands a lean, focused institution centered strictly on direct lineage and public service, free from favoritism or peripheral family expansion. From William's perspective, Camilla's efforts to introduce her children to royal events and retain family members on estate payrolls threatened to blur critical institutional boundaries. By refusing those efforts, William sent a clear signal: royal status is defined exclusively by bloodline and official duty, not by marriage or personal association. There will be no expanded inner circle, and there will be no redefinition of royal representation to accommodate step-family members. Since assuming control of the Duchy of Cornwall, William has implemented broader reforms aimed at modernizing the estate's operations. He has prioritized sustainable housing initiatives, streamlined administrative spending, and replaced long-standing appointees from his father's era with independent professional advisors. The era of informal personal appointments within the estate has effectively come to an end. While Prince William maintains his public role as a dedicated heir, husband, and father, behind the scenes he operates as a decisive administrator, reshaping the royal household to align with his future reign. For Queen Camilla, the reality of her position has become increasingly stark. While she holds the title of Queen Consort and performs her official duties alongside King Charles, her strategic influence over the monarchy's long-term future is strictly limited. Her attempts to secure official recognition and operational roles for her family have been firmly and permanently halted by the future king. Those close to the Queen Consort observe that she has adapted to this reality with quiet resignation. The public appearances continue, but the effort to expand her family's footprint within the royal institution has ceased. Prince William has established an absolute boundary around the core monarchy. His actions have made it clear that while his father may wear the crown today, the future of the House of Windsor will be defined strictly by bloodline institutional duty, and the enduring legacy of Princess Diana